Well, hello and welcome back everyone, and I hope you are all doing really fine. And in the last video, guys, we saw how can we insert a new record in our table. So we created a form, and using this form, we inserted few records in our table. So in this video, we are going to see how can we fetch a single particular record from our table. So here, as you can see, I have changed a little bit of our UI, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So if we go to our code, here you can see that in our books file, in this file, page.tsx inside the books folder, so you can see I have commented out the part where I was fetching the data earlier like this in the pre-tag json.stringify and rest of the thing. So what I did is I created a new component called books card, and here I passed books as our props. So what I did is I created a new component outside our app directory. So inside our app directory, actually you can do it outside our app directory, it doesn't matter. So I created a new folder called components, and inside the components I created the books cards card.tsx. So if I go inside it, you can see I did nothing but what I sent through the props I received here. I did this because the book is of type any. I did not wanted to go into types very deep, so I received our books here, and after receiving it I passed it here as a prop. And now I created a use state where I was setting book details and getting book details. So inside it, I created that any type. So what I did it inside our use effect, I checked if we have book, because it is very possible that the books can be null because we might not receive our book. So we need to check if we have book. So what I did is I mapped over our book, and I fetched all the data separately, and then I set all the data that I received in this book details in our book details use state. And then what I did is I used this book details to map over it, and then fetched all the data separately, and then like this with some basic tailwind css. And you can see this, and I created this button. And so if you go to our uh, browser and you see this edit button, what we'll be doing is when I click on it, the new page will open where all the data of this particular ID will be presented already. So suppose if I click on this, a new book 2, a new page will reopen where all the data of this particular ID will be pre-filled. So for that, what we can do is we can set this ID in our button in a handle click. So if I write here on click and I pass here handle button click, and I pass here our ID like this book dot ID like this. So it's saying we don't have this function because of course we don't have. What I did is I'm going to create a new function where I will be using the router method. Const router is equal to use router, and if you guys see that there are two use routers, I'm going to import it from the next slash navigation like this, and this is how we got our router. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do router dot push, and then inside it I'm going to open literal strings, and then I'm going to do books slash, and then like this. And since we are receiving ID here, we are going to write ID. If type any, we are going to go ID. So what we did here, when we click on that button, I want it to go to this particular page. So let's see what we have right here. So if I refresh it and click on this button, you can see we got redirected to our page of book slash our ID. So if you try again and click on this ID, so let's see what happens when I click on this edit button. You see the particular ID page is now opening. Okay, so now we have our ID right here. What we can do is we have our this form. So how I did it, it is basically called dynamic routing. It is topic of Next.js. Since I'm not teaching Next.js right here, I'm teaching Supabase. So I suppose that you guys know what dynamic routing is, but I can still give you a gist of it. So what I did is inside our books folder, I created another folder with this square bracket. So if you can see with this square bracket, I created another folder just like this. So what this folder did is it is taking our ID, and then if we go to like if we click on this button, handle button click, then it will find this particular ID in our book folder. So right here we have this folder, and inside it we have page.tsx. And inside this page.tsx, I did nothing. I just copied the whole code from our add books and removed this on submit inside this add on submit function data, and that's all. And everything inside this ID, this page.txt inside square bracket ID folder, everything is same. So here what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pre-fill all the tables, all the columns, all the data that we required here. So as you can see, it is just a simple form that we will be using to update our values right here. So here we have the ID. So how I'm going to fetch the ID, how I'm going to fetch the record for that particular ID. So what I need is ID, of course, we have here. So how I'm going to fetch it from the URLs. For that, I have this. So what it is doing is it is setting params as this you can say parameter, and the params are what the ID of type string. So if I console log it, what it is doing is I'm going to set what is our ID. So what can do is params dot ID. So if we save it and we go to our console, you can see it. If we refresh it, you can see we are getting our ID 6. We go to back page and then we select this ID. Here you can see we are getting our ID. So this is how you can fetch the ID from the route, from the URL route. And here how can like console it to know if we are getting our ID or not. So okay, so we are getting our ID here. Okay, we are getting our ID here, that's fine. Now what we need is we need to fetch our data. We need to fetch the data for this ID. So how I'm going to do it? I'm going to go to my next Supabase docs, go over this API docs, over the table. Here you can see this. When I click on it, I get this pop-up open, and when I go to read rows, here you can see we have already implemented this. So what we are going to do now is we are going to exactly copy this and going to go to our on submit function. And okay, let's not go to our on submit function. We need to fetch the data. So for that we are going to use effect like this, exactly we did in our first video. I'm going to add this empty dependency array here, and then I'm going to create an async function to get single book. So since this will be an async function, I'm going to add async here. And now I'm going to exactly paste what I copied from their docs. So okay, this is not what I copied. So if I'm going to copy it again and paste it right here, so you can see we get this. Now we can change it with a Supabase component like this. And now here we need one thing. How are we going to fetch our book from for a single ID? So for this we can do one thing. We can go below select and then write dot eq like this, and inside the eq we can pass inside this single quote like this. And then what we are going to do, we are going to open template string, and then we are going to write dollar bracket like this, and then params dot ID. So let me tell you what it is doing here. Here, this EQ, okay, so what expression expected, okay, so error is gone. It was some VS Code error. So what this dot EQ is doing, it is kind of, you can check, like you can see like equality operator to check if the ID in our table for a particular row is this or not. If it is, you can select all the data from it, from our books table. So let me repeat once again. Dot this dot eq is like an equality operator to check if the ID from our table, like suppose if we have this table and here this ID and the ID that we are getting here is same, then fetch all the records from our table books. So I hope this is clear to you guys. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a const use state. So let's just do this const book data comma set book data use state, and then let's give this any, and then give this an array. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the data that we got here. What we can do is we can go to our this function inside like this, and we can set the data that we're getting like this. So, and here we can pass we can pass params dot id. Okay, so let's update it accordingly. Let's see if it gives. Okay, so it says we have this. So why I added this params.id in our dependency? Because we want to fetch the data every time this params.id changes or updates. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you guys. So I set our book data here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to console our data. Uh, a new book is available like this. We can do anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to console log this book data. So let's go to our page here and inspect it. So let's see if we're getting anything or not. Okay, so because we did not initiate this function right here, so what we can do is we can do it like this and this and now if we refresh it, here you can see guys, we got our data right here like this. So for our id 5, we got the data of id 5. I hope it is clear to you guys. It is very very easy. I did nothing special, just use their own docs. We got our data for a single book, so it is very easy to do this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-fill this table, this form, I'm sorry, this form with the data that we got. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over. So okay, so let's do one thing. We can do, if we can make another use state of error and set error, and it would be of type string, because it's a good practice to always check like this. So if we have error, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set error. You cannot fetch the book like this, and else what we can do is we can set our book data like this. So here we did this. We have our record in the console. If you go again, where we have our record in the console like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pre-fill these fields. So here we have our book data. Okay, so we have our book data and we have our inputs. So since this is an title input, so what we are going to do is we are going to set the default, not checked, but default value. And what we are going to do is we are going to go book data, and we are going to fetch the, if you go to the console and the first data, which is of index 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 0 like this and then dot title. So let's go and see. Okay, so here you can see we got our title right here in the box. So I think that guys understood how easy it is to implement, getting a single record from the Supabase and then using it to refill the existing tables. Like, it is really easy. If you guys have any query regarding this, you can just ask me in the comments. So since we got the title, now we are going to fetch every data. So let's do it quickly. I'm going to copy it and then I'm going to paste it inside like this, and from instead of title we are going to fetch author. uh, okay, so this, and then do the same for cost. So let's do cost, and then similarly for last, so we can do release date like this. So okay, so it is saying that undefined cannot read the property of undefined. So okay, I hope you guys understand why, what is causing the issue. Because initially it is possible that we might not get the data. Initially it is possible that before the data loads on our browser, the HTML gets rendered and we don't have our data. So to fix this issue, what we can do is we can check if we have the data or not. So we can like do this and add this question mark to check if we have the data or not. This and this. So if you go and you can see, like, if you refresh it, you see it is taking some time to, like, if you watch it closely, and if I reload this page, you can see it takes a little bit of time to refill the data. So I hope you understood what was causing the issue, because the page renders initially and we don't have the data yet and we filled our data like this. So if we refresh it, the data does not appear, but after a few milliseconds the data appears itself. So this is how we can fetch a single record and then pre-filled all the data in our field like this. So if I go to back page, refresh it, and then if I go to this, the art of programming, and I click on this edit button, you can see when I come to this page, all the fields are pre-filled. Do this for again, like for this, and all the fields are pre-filled. So I hope you guys understand what it is doing, how we are doing everything. Code is very, very, very simple. There's nothing mind-boggling, nothing rocket science here. And in the next video, we are going to see we are getting the data here, right? So in the next video, we will be seeing how can we change the data that is already present in our table. Like suppose if here is the art of programming and we want to change the name of this book, we want to change the drawing of the programming or whatever you can do. So how can you do it? So we are going to see this in the next video. So be with me, and the next video is going to be pretty interesting. And if you are watching till here, thanks for watching. Please do hit like button so I can create more of it. And if you have any particular query or particular topic that you want to learn, you can definitely reach out to me with my email below in the description. So thanks for watching and have a nice day. See you later.